Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation of balance in trade. In this presentation, we'll be discussing what is the balance of trade, the surplus and deficit of balance in trade, the U.S.'s history of balance in trade, and finally, the winners and losers of trade.
So the first slide to start off is what is balance of trade? And balance of trade can be summed up as a country's GDP, or gross domestic production. And gross domestic production can be found out by subtracting a country's imports by their exports, and that equals a country's GDP. The GDP can fluctuate on the time of year depending on what month it is. So like say it's December and everyone's out buying Christmas gifts, the country's GDP is going to shoot up, rather than it being August and no one's out buying anything except for like groceries and the regular stuff. The country's GDP is going to be much lower.
But what is a trade surplus and a trade deficit? Well, a trade surplus is when a country exports more than it imports, and a trade deficit is when a country imports more than it exports. A trade surplus is more beneficial to an economy like the United States because we have been in negative GDP for over 30 years.
In the United States, since we've been in a deficit for over 30 years, this is because we import more than we export. And this was the case for a long time until 2009, where they released an economic stimulus bill, which really brought up American production. But since then, everything has fallen down.
The U.S. history and balance of trade. The U.S. has signed many treaties over its time in the trade business, and that help benefit us and other countries, like NAFTA, for example. That's between Canada, Mexico, and us. That allows us to have free trade agreement between all three of the countries. This was signed back in 1994. More recent ones include CAFTA, which was signed in 2004 to help trade agreement also. The U.S. has had a downfall in the GDP, as Cole stated, since 2000s, but it slowly went up and then it just kept going back down after that.
And this is figure B, and the top line depicts the total amount of capital the United States has spent from 1998 to 2018, and the bottom line depicts the United States GDP steady decline. However, there was that spike in 2009 where they sent out that stimulus check.
In every situation, there's winners and losers. Places such as the United States would be considered a loser because of how much they export or how much they import compared to exports. But places such as China, Canada, and Mexico export way more stuff to the United States and import only as much as they need.
This is our works cited slides. And thank you for watching.